protests, right?
Mhm.
But none to this extent, none that have been this intense, that have required the National Guard to come in. We haven't had things, that are being lit on fire. So we haven't had anything this intense before, which I don't necessarily agree with, like things being burned and shit. But at the same time, like I'm super proud of the protesters that have been standing their grounds. I would never complain and be like, well, why is this state doing this? I understand why this state is. Well, because it's a national problem, you know?
Yeah, I didn't know the National Guard was coming out there as well.
Yeah, that's what they had said on the news. So, and they mistaked a few officers for them, but they were saying that they were actually on their way. And I don't know if that was just kind of a scare tactic, but I mean, it's pretty intense.
Yeah, I just I just don't think that they care. They didn't care about anything until it was affecting them. And by them, I mean the government. By them, I mean people who weren't black, and a lot of foreigners, saying stuff like, oh, I just can't even believe they said this. We came here and, you know, because we were being persecuted and things weren't right in our country. So we came here and learned the language and did everything we could to get ahead. And then they're like, well, you know, we got out of the situation and stuff. And I'm like, well, that's different because you left and went to another country, you know? They're like, well, then that should be the solution for black people. They should leave the country.
8 p.m. if you're caught in these areas, you're going to be arrested. That's what they just sent to my phone. So
Oh,
maybe that kind of disrupted the service.
yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. At least in Utah, they gave people some time. Here, they sent out the alert like at 7:10, 7:20, telling people curfew started at 8 p.m. That
So
is,
that was that before people were out there or after? I'm confused.
people were outside, and people weren't just outside um,
Well,
protesting. People were outside, taking walks or doing whatever they did, and they had their cars in the area. And so they're worried about them being towed or getting tickets.
right. Well, the thing is the the curfew started in the middle of the protests. They were just like later on explaining to people, like, 8 o'clock, this is what's going to happen. I
But
don't
they,
know if they were shooting or what is it called? Tear gas.
yes,
They were shooting that. They had a few people were actually hit with like rubber bullets over
yeah.
here. I'm like, my goodness.
But to not send out an alert that curfew's at 8 until like 7:20 ish.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't think that anyone was really fully prepared, maybe not here in Utah, to really deal with it because we don't really have that many riots. I guess you could say that that was what was happening today. But
Yeah.
I know that LA has experienced that before, at least, I mean, not in the last few years, right? Like, when was the last riot in LA?
Yeah, we had what was it, Eric Gardner, tons of
Okay.
other little riots, but
Hmm.
nothing this severe.
Right.
This one's more severe, but it was only severe in the sense that there were so many in various parts of town and in various parts of California.
Right.
So, it wasn't that severe, to be honest, because, it wasn't too far from me.
It was really close by, actually, because I was looking up. Well, I mean, I don't know exactly where you live, but you were giving me ideas of where you were at and where the protest was. But
You did
some
Google
of,
search? You did a Google map?
yeah, I didn't do that, but I was seeing a lot of Google videos from where you were saying you were at, because you were saying like it started at like East Street or some shit.
Yeah, 3rd Street.
3rd Street. There you go.
Because this is what happened. So I was taking a walk, getting a smoothie from Earth Cafe. And then I went to go sit down at the Montage Courtyard.
Mhm.
A lot of people there, and there aren't seats anywhere else. And so I was sitting down, just, drinking my smoothie. And then this lady starts walking up frantically, like to the courtyard. And they're probably at most 10 people there, but 10 people meaning like about 3 or 4 groups. And it's like we're all super, super spread out, right? And so she starts walking, and then she looks at me, and then she looks at everyone else, and she starts telling everyone else and going up to them like, the riots are coming.
Oh my gosh. I wish you would have got that on tape.
I know, but I was drinking my smoothie and I was trying not to be, that person, but she was just like, "Oh, the riots. They're starting on 3rd Street. I'd get out of here if I were you guys. It's starting like everyone should disperse." And I'm like, "Oh geez." And then everyone starts looking at me.
Oh my goodness. Are you serious?
I'm not I no lie. They all start looking at me. And then what happened? So then, like, some people left. They're like, "Oh my god, I want people to get home and shit." And I'm just like, "Your concern is just not being able to get home again, because this isn't affecting you. This does not affect you in any way. You don't care about the problem."
Right.
So there are other people who heard it and just like stayed, but noticed there were like a few people of color, but they weren't black. Like there was a Persian family, then a Mexican lady. They left, but
Mhm.
white people stayed. They're like, they didn't care. And I was about to say too, because I'm like, wait, I'm black, I'm fine. But then I thought about it, because I thought about Omar being arrested, and I was like, I better get my black ass out of here. So I'm like, I'm not trying to spend the night in jail and get mistaken for a rioter or something.
Right. Do you feel like the good majority of the people that are actually at these protests have the good intentions of kind of standing up for something and kind of showing and standing their ground to wrong and right? Because I honestly feel like a good majority of the people are there for the right reasons. Ultimately, I think there's some spectators though.
Yeah, I think some are definitely spectators trying to get stuff on camera. Um,
Right.
what I've seen is like, I think the majority of people are there for the right reasons. Do I think some people just took advantage of the situation and started looting Nordstroms? Yes.
Right.
I 100% agree that they just did that because they noticed like, oh well, let's get some free shit while we can. Especially after the pandemic, like money's tight and everything. So really not surprised.
Yeah, and while I was watching the news, the founder of Black Lives Matter had to say, which I think is a good idea for her to come out and say, "Hey, we don't condone the flipping of the car. That was not us." Because you do see a lot of people, they have their signs of Black Lives Matter, which is great, but at the same time, I understand that she doesn't want to attach that to Black Lives Matter because I feel like it's really misunderstood to some people. Do you think so?
Yeah, because you saw the guy with the arrow.
Right.
All lives matter. But okay, if all lives matter, why are you shooting arrows at people?
And that's what's really disturbing to me is if you feel like that is the way you feel, right? Which all lives do matter, but if that's the case, why do you have to always publicize that though? Because I saw like an example. If you go to like a cancer foundation, right, like breast cancer, would it be right for the person to say, "Oh, all cancer matters"? Like, do you know how dumb that sounds? Like, we understand that there's different parts of cancer, there's different types, and then it's a bad thing, but right now this walk is for breast cancer. Like, do you not see kind of the similarities of how dumb that sounds when people are like, all lives matter? Okay, we're not dismissing that. We're not dismissing that, these different lives don't matter.
Yeah, they don't
But
get it.
we're highlighting a problem that we see here, which is a lot of people don't want to see it, but it's been here for a long time. They've ingrained people's minds to fear black men and to make them feel like they're these animalistic savages, so they have been programmed to view black men and black women too to be a certain type of way. And so, of course, police officers are going to view them less than a valued human because they've been taught to do so.
Yeah, systematically.
Right. And
Time.
now that was normal, though. I mean, they published books of like black men being the savage beast trying to get, the white woman. It's that was the norm of doing that. And it's still present, maybe not as obvious with like the publishing of the books and movies and shit that they did. But I mean, it's still there. People still view people in that way.
Oh, it's obvious.
Right. It's obvious to us, but I wish it was more obvious to the people that are kind of in denial of it, or they just don't even want to acknowledge it because it makes them uncomfortable,
Like
you
you
know?
said, the riots, all this stuff made them uncomfortable. And so by them, I mean the people only concerned about themselves. Because I can't
Right.
say as in white people, people not black. Because I really appreciated seeing this. It gave me hope for humanity that everyone came up and they're trying to help with the cause. Like I think the lady of Black Lives Matter, she was at, I think, yeah, it was her. She was at like somewhat of a press conference, and I was watching it yesterday. And she was saying, "We've been preventing your buildings and everything from being burned down. We've been stopping it. We can't help what these young kids are doing." So
Right. And you can't associate that negativity with, people that are behind a big movement that do want to see a change. But it's easier to group that, though. It's so much easier and convenient to some people that don't wanna face the facts and the reality of how other people live their life and their experiences because it's not their experience, you know?
exactly. Only thing I'll say about the damaging of property, because people today they just went crazy with the looting, but before they're damaging property, and the kid said, "We're doing this because this is how Black people feel every day," and that to me, I was like, "Whoa!" Because after I saw like, like Jazzy, we see this all the time, which is terrible. We see it all the time on the news. Black people dying. Off the news, we hear Black people dying due to police brutality, and not even only police brutality, but people who take it amongst themselves to, you know,
Take the law in their own hands.
that's what I'm trying to say. Sorry.
Right.
I'm just like, it's just ridiculous. Because what was it? Trayvon, and then who was the guy recently? The thing is, it happens so much. How are we supposed
Ahmaud.
to?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, like, there's so many names to be talked about, but the sad thing is, like, we are starting to become desensitized of it. So yeah, we do forget the names because it happens so frequently.
Yeah, I can't. It's really hard seeing people who are your family, like look like your family, because we're all the same culture, like we're all mixed up, and
Right.
even though we're all part of the American culture, they are not treating us as such. And I don't know, it's just like I feel just personally I was really desensitized because these things are just popping up so much, and now that it's being filmed, it's popping up even more. And when I saw Omar, the CNN reporter, get arrested for just doing his job, and he was arrested first. I know his crew was arrested, but the other guy's crew wasn't arrested. who wasn't, his camera wasn't live, because you know how they switch news cameras, like some are live and then other ones aren't at the moment.
Right.
That just really like tipped the iceberg for me, because also after that, then CNN was pissed, and then that's when the governor stepped in and had to release the CNN employees, and also then finally addressed the death and arrested the police officer. It took that for something to happen, and it's just like I can't, I can't.
Yeah. I also wonder if there's going to be anything brought upon the was there 3 other officers?
Mm, I don't remember.
I kind of feel like everything was very orchestrated to me when I look at it, because I'm now seeing other videos being resurfaced when they had a scuffle with George in the back seat, and the other guy that was standing outside of the Jeep was also in this video standing outside of the Jeep and kind of alerted to the other officers when they were scuffling with him. There's a camera. It's like they were orchestrating terrorizing this man.
Mm, I also saw a different video suggesting that um, they planned to kill him, suggesting it because they had the the ambulance come, right, but the people who came out of the truck were just regular police officers. They were just in regular cop uniforms.
Hmm.
They weren't in EMT garb.
It's so painful to see it, and there's just going to be more that's going to unravel, that's just going to be even more hard to even grasp what the hell has happened and what had happened.
No, it's going to be hard dealing with the National Guard being in our cities and still not having what we asked for as a collective um, done. Because what we asked for specifically was for the officers in various states who keep
Right.
committing acts of violence against people of color to be brought to justice,
Right.
at least have their day in court or something. And we've said that multiple times over and over and over, every press conference, and it's been ignored. So that's my problem with it right there. Like they did not solve the problem at all.
Yeah, there's no, you're right. And there's just too many situations that all of us can relate to and be like, oh, if that was me, it would have been different. Or if that person was black or brown, it would have been different. There's too many situations that we can throw that out there like that, right? There's too
Oh,
many situations like that. And that's what boils my blood, because when you see, women online acting a certain way, if the shoe was on the other foot, what would happen if that was a minority talking the way that this other lady is talking to this police officer? Things would be different for us, and we know that.
yep. Like that lady on the Karen's page who was white, who pushed the cop back for hitting um, a, a black person who was just standing there. You see that one? I think you saw that
Was it
on
the
the
lady that threw the bike?
yes, because he had
Yeah.
her. Oh, you know what
Right.
was interesting? Like so every time it's terrible. So every time we hear about the cops who act out with black people, they usually have previous infractions, right? A history of acts of violence and marks on their record for certain instances.
Right.
So they're able to arrest us, reprimand us, reprimand people without a prior, put us in check, and they're guilty themselves.
Right. And there's more benefit of the doubt being thrown the other way.
Yeah, but not only that, I'm just saying, like, as okay, if you apply for a job and they see certain things on your record, you may have a hard time getting that job. Whereas these cops, they have all these things on their record, but they're sent back out to deal with people.
Right. Right. And that's another frustrating thing. I'm trying to think of this other guy's name. It was Freddie, or my gosh, like I said, there's so many names to keep up with. Well, the officer that had shot him had prior problems before and actually was rehired on after. And I'm like, well, what kind of bullshit is that?
Yeah, they don't do that for civilians. If we get caught by a cop doing something, how come the cop gets to take us in and do all this bullshit? And then there's just no consequences for them. There's no
There's no consequences, and there should be, because they hold a higher place on the pedestal as far as protecting, right? But everything that they do, there's a easy justification of why that happened. Well, I had shot this person because of this. There's just way too many justifications of a police officer getting away with this stuff,
oh,
right?
house. We were at the wrong house and shot the wrong woman in her bed.
Right, and but there's a justification for that.
Like, jeez, like, what was it? They went to this lady's house in Texas and shot her dead, and and then the other one with this female officer said she walked into the wrong apartment and automatically just shot the guy.
Right, I remember that case.
Like, there are just so many, and there's so many of the same ones, and we've been peacefully protesting.
Hmm.
So I don't know. And your solution is to bring in, not you, but
Right.
society, to bring in the National Guard instead of solving the problem. I think that's fucked up.
Right, and I'm really interested to see what's going to happen tomorrow or the rest of tonight, actually. But this is why I like to see different people from different backgrounds come together, because you can misuse, and I'm referring to Caucasians, right? You can really misuse your privilege, or you can put it to use, right? And bring everyone together with strength, because we have seen that happen way too many times when the white privilege is thrown out there and it's actually weaponized. And it goes back to the guy in the park with the lady with the dog.
Yeah, it's
She
kind of
knew her white privileged was going to be put on the pedestal over a black guy, because before she called 911, she says, I'm going to say a African American is threatening me. She knew what kind of consequences would possibly come from that, and she probably knew all about police brutality.
of course she knew. She
And so that's another thing that needs to be stopped too. If you're going to use your white privilege, use it for the right reasons, not to oppress another person because you're not getting your way in public.
I don't want to deal with white privilege. I don't want to deal with all this stuff. I know this is the society we're in, and but frankly, I'm just getting tired of it. I'm almost feeling like I want to leave too, like Eartha Kitt did, and a bunch of others.
We hear a lot of I hear a lot of people saying that all the time. If you don't like it, then, well, if we don't like injustices, we have to leave, though? Why can't you just get your shit together?
I agree. I agree with that. Like, I agree. Like, why do I have to leave my home?
We don't have to.
Yeah, we don't have to. It's just like, but in our lifetime, would we have to experience freedom, like true freedom, and not even think like sometimes we could go outside and we're more concerned than our white counterparts of getting pulled over in the outcome. Because I don't know, especially driving alone sometimes, and
Right.
how aggressive cops can be with me, and even just going to a coffee shop or whatever, like they'll eyeball you and stuff, like in a sexual way, and they just sometimes make me uncomfortable. So I don't feel safe being pulled over by myself. And I
Right.
know that on like being a woman and then on top of being black, like I don't know the outcome. And other people don't know that feeling. I'm not saying like there aren't people of different cultures who don't know that feeling, but I'm saying it's just in us and we just
Right.
accept that.
Right.
We accept that as normal. And I don't want to deal with that. But, like some people have to stay for the fight for justice. We can't just all abandon ship. So
It's true.
it's like, it's like I want to be happy in my life. I don't want to deal with this oppression. At
Right.
the same
But
time,
right.
want to,
But this so go ahead, sorry.
no, I was just saying I don't want to leave this place I built.
And we don't, we shouldn't have to, unfortunately, that we feel that way, but we shouldn't have to. The
No,
ugliness needs to leave, but will it ever leave though? That's the question, because it's been programmed in people, and it's been programmed in us to feel a certain way too, because of what history is and what it is today and what it has caused problems. I mean, the problems that it causes today with all types of situations, not even with the police.
we've been programmed to accept breadcrumbs. We've been programmed to accept breadcrumbs, um, and little things like, oh, well, this we got part of what we wanted. Um, like, it's just ridiculous. Like, in the '60s and all these, before and stuff. Oh, we're happy to be free. So thankful that they finally freed us and realized it was wrong. Okay, now we're happy that we're able to learn to read. We're happy we're able to go to school. We're happy we're able to legally get married to one of them. We're happy we don't have to sit in the back of the bus. This is all abusive behavior.
Right.
So we're used to being abused. I don't know if yeah, you have. You've seen Game of Thrones, right?
Absolutely.
So remember Reek? His name was
Hmm.
Theon. He was this powerful, character. He was this free, loving guy. And then he gets captured and he's mutilated, similar slavery, mutilated, beaten down, mentally abused until he's like, my name is Reek. That is Black people in America. And then Africans are his sister who came over. That's not my brother. I don't know who that is, but that's not my brother. That's just what I see, and that's how I feel. And I feel like as Theon was getting used to some freedom over and over, then he was almost back to Theon, but he was never Theon again.
And then Game of Thrones went down in fire and flames.
Exactly. So that's just how I feel. So I'm just like, if we're just used to being abused.
So what do you think the next step should be?
I don't know what the next step should be, but I think similar to again, this is American rebellion. I think similar to Louisiana, we just have to keep pushing through, and that's it. I mean, we could do the Haiti route, but no one does. Like, we say we believe in religion and the afterlife, but we really don't. Because, like in Haiti, I'm sure you're familiar. Like, the legend goes that they were supposed to do it one way, and then they went to like a demon, and they blame that on the problems they have there today. They used the demons to get rid of the French colonists. And in Louisiana, they had violent acts of rebellion, as well as, like the Mary Laveaux and all those type of people, pushing for freedom.
Right.
I don't know, but I think, we have to like emancipate ourselves from mental slavery.
It seems like we take steps forwards and a few steps back. And I'm not talking about we is like a black community, but collectively USA, or the world basically.
Because they just don't care. It is what it is. They don't care. How do we make them care? Affect their livelihood. So that's all I can say. Affect them in some way that matters to them, because nothing matters. They
Right, but I also feel like I had said earlier, are they going to see it that way though? Like some people will say, "Oh my gosh, we've really got to make a change here. We need reform," right? But
no,
then there's the other group of people that will say they don't understand it. They just think it's thugs,
go ahead and
it's
think it sucks.
riffraff, and that they're not going to see the root of the problem,
You know what?
right?
Let them think it sucks. Let them do it.
The only thing we can continuously do is keep taking a stand to what's right.
Mhm.
That's all we can do really, is just kind of keeping the fight alive, even
They
though it's exhausting and tiring and disappointing and depressing at times. I mean, 2020 has been definitely interesting. We've had a lot of things thrown at us in such a short time frame.
Yeah, I'm just saying racism is racism, and we that's been embedded in our psyches.
That's very true. It is very true.
So it was violently brought upon us, and you know, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, different schools of thought, both dead. So
Right. Well,
both.
and that's another thing that frustrates me too, is people are quick to throw out, "Oh, Martin Luther King, this, that, and the other." Okay, well, he had a different approach than Malcolm X. And like you just said, they killed them both, right? Now, I think Malcolm X's reasons was a little different.
Yeah, he was killed by his own society because then he had changed his school of thought towards the end, um, and saying, well, white people aren't devils. He's like, there are brothers, and we need to work with them for change.
Which is very
And
true, but as far as like the two different approaches, that didn't work either. So, in order to
like,
really, I don't want to get discouraged, because it can be when you think about it, right?
think about it, it works slightly. Guess what? Are we in the back of the bus? Are we're able to sit in the same movie theaters? So like we got breadcrumbs of
Well,
freedom.
we get, I mean, education is on a completely different level than it was back then. I
Yeah,
mean, we definitely have advantages,
but you get what
but I definitely see exactly where you're coming from, but and I do agree with it. But
bread of what it's like to be white. Breadcrumbs.
but really, what is the white experience when you extract police brutality?
Not being enslaved in your own country.
Enslaved in terms of what exactly, when you, like I said, extract any type of police brutality?
Oh, I thought you were talking about extracting police
Right.
brutality
So when you extract that,
from
because you
white
said the
people.
white experience, right? I don't know what the white experience is really. I mean, I'm mixed, but at the same time, when I walk into a business that is, prejudiced, I'm a minority. I'm not a white person.
I know it's crazy. We'll never know what it's like. We'll never know what it's like to not be singled out, to not think we're crazy when we say the same thing as
Right.
someone else of other color in the office.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is people aren't the people that feel these ways, they're not out for attention. They're not crazy. They see and they can feel when something is off. We've all experienced things on multiple levels of how we felt like we've been treated or mistreated, really, and we've been profiled. So hopefully, this actually makes a change as far as the outrage that's happening across the nation. I'm hoping. I don't see why they wouldn't start looking at shit differently.
Because it was only a few days.
A lot has happened in a few days, though.
Because they're still in power. And like they were able to shut us down like that. That is why they had too much power. And they could just say, oh, here comes National Guard. We're going to stick the cops on you. We're going to stick the dogs. We're going to stick the water hoses. How is this different than the 60s? It's not. They're doing the same thing they did then that they're doing right now. Like history is repeating itself.
And it will, and it always will. That's the scary thing.
I don't know. It's just, we try like another one of my friends was posting because he's really into workouts and everything, so he's been doing his thing, staying with his family in Atlanta because he usually lives over here
Hmm.
in he's always posting his workout videos, and this week you could just see him gaining weight. He just addressed it. He's like, look, I'm really on my thing, but all this stuff is really getting to me. It's like I really feel it. It's heavy, it's hard to function, but we are a resilient people, and all we can do is keep pushing through because we've made too much progress.
Exactly, and that's a good note to leave it on.
Yeah,
That's really good.
just yeah, just tired of fighting. I'm sure we're all tired of fighting to exist. So we'll see. We'll see what tomorrow brings.
Well, I think that we had a good chat.
Yeah, it's time to get off this topic and onto something more cheerful.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.